with the midterms now just 46 days away, we actually have some breaking news just released now. An Arizona judge has just ruled that the state can enforce a near total ban on abortion. A near total ban on abortion. This just coming from a judge in the state of Arizona, right in time for leaders of both political parties to be sharpening their messages to voters. Look, this is a serious issue and something that's going to be of concern to many voters throughout the country. So while Kevin McCarthy is trying to make his pitch for Speaker of the House and introducing the Republican commitment to America and his agenda in Pennsylvania, he's also got to deal with the fact that you've got more and more Republicans and more Democrats and more Americans who are concerned about their future. But he figures he can cover all that with the predictable MAGA Republican buzzwords.
On our very first bill, we're going to repeal 87,000 IRS agents. We can build an education system that has a parent's bill of rights. We should ensure women only compete in women's sports.
Yeah, in case you missed it, yes, that was none other than Marjorie Taylor Greene, seated directly behind McCarthy. A short time later in Washington, President Biden rebuked McCarthy's plan as goals with little or no details and laid out for voters a clear contrast between the parties running for office this fall.
In 46 days, America's going to choose. If Republicans win control of the Congress, abortion will be banned. But if you give me 2 more Democratic senators in the United States Senate, I promise you, we're going to codify Roe. America's going to face a choice. If Republicans control the Congress, Social Security will be on the chopping block. But if you support the Democrats, I promise you this, Social Security will be protected, period.
Joining me now is Mara Gay, MSNBC political analyst and member of the New York Times editorial board, and Victor Shi, strategy director for Voters of Tomorrow, co-host of the iGen Politics podcast and a 2020 Biden delegate. Thank you all so much for joining me this evening. I'm going to start with this. Just your reactions to this new ruling from an Arizona judge allowing a near total ban on abortion in the state of Arizona. I'll start with you, Mara. What do you think this does for voters in the state of Arizona right now? If they were having any questions about whether they wanted to participate, what do you think this is going to do?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I'm thinking about women, pregnant people, in the state of Arizona right now, just the heartbreak I know as a woman that comes when you know that your government does not protect you and in fact is seeking to control the decisions that should be made between you and your healthcare provider. These are life and death decisions. So unfortunately, we're going to see more tragic stories, I fear, coming out of yet another state as women's rights are being stripped away. I think the political impact is pretty clear. If you look at what the movement that really started in Kansas at the ballots this year, it's clear that American voters, not just Democrats and not just women, they see what's happening and they see that not only are women's rights under assault, but really basic, fundamental American freedoms that we have come to enjoy in this country, though imperfectly, are at risk, no matter who you are, because of the move to really start controlling Americans' lives. And I think that Americans don't like it. And I think that's why the Republicans aren't talking about it, because they know these are unpopular with voters who are not in their deepest red base. And they're hoping that American voters forget come November that they are the ones that are taking our rights away.
Victor, you know, with your work and your organization, you're dealing with new voters, the youngest voters, first-time voters. When legislation when rulings like this come down, how does it hit sort of first-time voters? Is this the kind of thing, you know, after they deal with the shock, after they deal with the offense, the fear, the heartbreak, as Mara was just talking about, does it tend to mobilize them, or does it frustrate them that the system seems to continue to ignore what their needs and desires are as American citizens?
So I think it's that frustration and anger that is really turning out young voters come this November election. This is why young voters are so mobilized and so engaged in this election. In the past, we've seen the young voter turnout really tick up, but I think in this election, you're going to see that really change because Republicans are clearly coming after our lives. Dobbs, that decision overturning Roe versus Wade and access and limiting the ability for young people to access abortion and women to access abortion, that was a key decision because that's the first time that people in my generation saw a right literally get overturned by the Supreme Court. And then you have states across the country like Arizona today that are seeking to impose a ban on abortion. This is something that young people know all too well, especially young girls who might be seeking abortions. They cannot access safe and legal abortions. And that is what's riling up a lot of people in my generation. We feel the anger, we feel the frustration, and I think you're going to really see that turnout come November. And I'd also like to point out one thing, which is that this is going to happen if Republicans win in 2022, and you just have to listen to someone like Senator Lindsey Graham. It's not just in the states. The federal government wants to do this. So Senator Lindsey Graham comes out and says he wants to impose a nationwide ban on abortion. I think voters really have to pay attention to that. And I think that young voters, especially this time around, aren't oblivious. We understand what's going on, and I think we're going to act on it.
Mara, I want to play you some sound from President Joe Biden talking about abortion and how it in particular affects women voters in these midterms.
Justice Alito said the women can decide the outcome of this election. Well, he ain't seen nothing yet. I don't believe the MAGA Republicans have a clue about the power of American women.
Mara, the data is there that there has been a huge uptick in voter registration, first-time voters amongst women, especially women under the age of 30. The question is, we've seen in many times in the past that while there may be an uptick in women voting, they don't necessarily vote for candidates who are always about protecting abortion rights. There are large numbers of white American women voters who vote for Republicans who want to restrict their rights, but at the same time want to vote to protect those rights. How do you think these new numbers that we're seeing now, how do you think they play out? Is Joe Biden right? Are the power of women voters, is that going to protect abortion rights this fall? Or do we just not know until Election Day because we don't know how the women are going to vote?
Yeah, it's a great question. First of all, I don't think any of us can take anything in our democracy for granted right now. So the elections in November will be won not just at the ballot box, but by get out the vote efforts and organizing across the country. But I also think, generally for Democrats, new voters and more voters is a good thing. So, broadly speaking, it is the case that the more people who vote nationally, traditionally Democrats tend to do better. And so that's a good sign for the Democrats. I think the other factor here is that people who are newly motivated in this environment to vote may very well be coming out in support of abortion rights, because let's just remember that the most hardcore Republicans are likely to vote in primaries, which they've already done. They've already gotten their Supreme Court picks, so they may not be quite as motivated. We really don't know. Again, nothing can be taken for granted. I think the big question for Democrats as well is not only what happens in Congress, but can they motivate Democratic voters who are exhausted to show up in their state elections and really understand the importance of what happens in state houses across the country.